Good evening readers, it's Tilly here from Tilly's Shelf. I'm on holiday at the moment. Yay, holiday! And I just really hit my hand against the wall. I just went this weekend with Beau to Oxford and we went to see the Tolkien Maker of Middle-earth exhibition, which I talked about in a little review video, which I will link somehow. And we also went to see a really fascinating exhibition called Spellbound at the Ashmolean. So I'm in like a very, very, very relaxed mood, compared to in September when I had, from the 29th of August to the 13th of September, I only had one full day off, and in the kind of month around those dates we also had 3 house guests, we got a new carpet. Also I got ill and I'm still a little bit ill now. And I went on holiday twice. I went to Edinburgh and I went to Oxford. So that was why September, which I'm now kind of drawing the line under, even though it's still September, was stressful, and now this is a relaxed time in the run-up to October. So I'm going to try and avoid rambling too much, and really what I want to do is I'm going to talk to you about the things that I'm going to read for Victorian October, which is hosted by, oh god, I didn't write down the names and now I'm going to forget somebody. Kate Howe, Katie from Books and Things, who I really love her channel. She was one of the first classics-y orientated booktubers that I discovered, and her videos for Jane Austen July just meant so much to me and really pushed me forward into wanting to talk about kind of classic books on BookTube, which I haven't really done yet, but you know, the thought is there. Lucy the Reader, and I'm sorry, whoever you are, that I've forgotten. I've watched all of the announcement videos, but I cannot remember the other name. I'm really sorry. Oops. I don't normally do videos about books that I'm planning to read because I think it's a little bit silly to talk about books that you haven't read yet, but because there's these challenges and because I've seen a lot of videos from other people saying what they're going to read, I thought it would be quite fun to do one and to explain what my plan is. Also, I just tried to participate in ShakeTube in September, which I really enjoyed for the first week of September, and I didn't do a TBR for that, and I feel like almost if I had done, I'd have felt a little bit more committed and involved and so on. So I think making this video is gonna make me feel like yes, I'm gonna do Victober and I'm determined to do it. Long-winded introduction, that happened. I heard about Victober a long time before I knew what the challenges were going to be, and I've kind of mentally been setting aside all of the Victorian books that I want to read and thinking to myself, I'll read that in Victober, I'll read that in Victober. So I've gradually accrued quite a pile, and I've had to kind of retrofit them to make them fit the challenges, but actually the challenges were pretty easy to match things up with. So because I have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different books I don't necessarily want to read all of, but 8 different idea books to base my reading around, what I decided that I would do, in the spirit of Katie's challenge, which is to read a book from the first 10 years of the Victorian era and a book from the last 10 years of the Victorian era. I don't have a book from the last 10 years of the Victorian era that I own and that I'm planning to read, so I can't do what she kind of suggested, which is to do the start and end. But what I thought I would do, in the same kind of spirit in terms of seeing the progression and the change that occurred over that really long time period from 1837 to 1901, I'm gonna say, I decided that I would read my books chronologically. So I've got ones from the start and ones kind of from the middle, petering out towards the end. So hopefully I'm going to see some kind of development and change over that period. Who knows? It's going to be hopefully a little bit of an interesting thing to do, even though I can't get right the way up to the end of the period. I'm going to start with Tales of Angria, which is, it says it's by Charlotte Bronte, but it's by most of the Bronte siblings sort of collaborated on it at some point, but they've just put it as under Charlotte Bronte because Penguin Classics apparently occasionally lies. And I'd read the first book in this, which is Mina Lowry, and I think I might have read the introduction and background as well, which really helped me to understand what was going on. But I'm very keen to read the next one, which is The Duke of Zamorna. Talking about nice bookmarks and stuff. I'm pretty sure that's from a cereal packet. It's a little bit better. That's from Barter Books in Alnwick. It kind of sounds like from the notes and so on that was written in the 1830s, but obviously Charlotte Bronte was born in 1816, so if you think that this is something that she kind of was starting to work on in her teenage years. We're kind of talking about the very start of the 1830s and moving into the 1840s. Definitely this is something that they kept working on for quite a long time. So I think this is like slightly pre-Victorian / the very beginnings of the Victorian era. Then next chronologically is Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens, which is a book that I've been meaning to read 3, maybe 4 years. An ex-flatmate of mine who I just saw recently, and it was really nice to see her, but I didn't tell, she knows about booktube, but I didn't tell her about this channel because I was a little bit scared to tell her. She studied this for an English literature course that she was on, and then she moved back to Sweden and she left the book behind, and she didn't really enjoy it all that much from what I gathered, but I thought, oh, I really like the other Dickens books that I've read, so I'm going to give it a go. And it's published in 1837, so it is right in that first decade of the Victorian period. The other challenge that it meets, same with Tales from Angria actually, it's got a proper noun in the title. That takes that one off, and there's also been various adaptations of it, so it will be easy to watch the kind of general challenge, which is to watch a screen adaptation of a Victorian novel. I might do, I think somebody whose channel is called Summer Days, she pointed out that we could watch the Oliver and Company Disney version of this, which I love the idea of doing that. It would just be an entertaining way of reimagining that kind of like screen interpretation version. Oh, it's also another one of the challenges is to read a book by one of the host's favourite authors, and Katie's favourite author is Dickens, and somebody else, I'm going to say Lucy maybe, her favourite author is Bronte, so I will have that covered pretty securely. I didn't really have anything in between the 1830s and the 1860s, so that's quite a big gap. But what I do have is selected poems by William Wordsworth. I've just been reading, not the whole of, and I won't read the whole of it for this month, but some extracts from his great poetical work, which was called the Prelude, which he started in like 1798. And I've been reading extracts from the 1799 version, so he wrote and revised this poem for his entire life. And this book contains extracts from the 1850 version. So what I thought would be quite interesting would be to compare how it has developed in all of that time when he was editing it, but also interesting in that the time will have changed, and to read some poetry instead of some prose. And that will be just like my little filler for the 1850s, because it was published in 1850. I think he actually died in 1847 or something, so it's probably written in the 1840s, but worked on over that whole first half of the 18th century. It will also take me back out into the countryside after Oliver Twist, which I think is quite a city-based story. I've never even seen like the musical of Oliver Twist. I really don't know what I'm going into other than that there's a line, "Please sir, can I have some more?" So Wordsworth will take me back out into the Lake District and into like the more rustic world that was going on at the time. Next, in the order, I might skip it if I'm not doing very well on time because I'm more keen on the book that comes after it, but next in order is The Mill on the Floss, which is from 1860. I've got a kind of like a clustering of books from the 1860s now, so that is going to be a decade that I know well by the end of this. And it's by George Eliot, and George Eliot is another favourite author of one of the hosts. This copy belongs to my mum. She highly recommended it. She said that it was a much more accessible George Eliot than Middlemarch, which I tried to read when I was way too young to read it. I think I was maybe sort of 12 or 13, and I thought, oh well, I've read Austen and I've read Bronte, so why shouldn't I read George Eliot? I just didn't get into it at all. So hopefully I will like The Mill on the Floss a bit more, and it will make me excited to try again with Middlemarch. This one also will fit another one of the challenges, which is to read a book that was written by a woman anonymously or under a pseudonym. If, like I said, I'm running short on time, I am going to skip ahead and read Silas Marner. I picked this up about 2 weeks ago in a charity shop in Edinburgh when I was there with my old housemate who I mentioned regarding Oliver Twist. That's Convoluted. And it was really highly recommended to me by a colleague at work. So I changed to a new area of my job in June, I think, and so I met this colleague then, and we got talking about books, and she was like, oh, you have to read Silas Marner. Like, if you like Victorian literature, you have to read Silas Marner. I said, yeah, I'll read Silas Marner, I definitely will. And in August she asked me again, she's like, oh, what did you think of Silas Marner? And I was like, I haven't read it yet. And so when I found it in the charity shop, I thought, I've got to get that, and I've got to read it in October, because then I will have read it and I'll be able to talk to her about it. And this book is another one that meets like several of the challenges, so if I fall short on any area then I can kind of skip to this one. and I'm really hoping that I do get it read. That's that one. And I'm still in the 1860s here. I think Silas Marner was 1861. The next one that I have that I'm quite excited to read, whether or not I will get to it, we will see, because I don't really expect that I can read all of these books. I'm going to take this disgusting plastic cover off, actually. Yeah, that's a lot nicer. It's Lorna Doone by RD Blackmore. And I got it in a secondhand bookshop for 50p. I got this book shortly after reading Self-Control by Mary Bronte because I realised that I just really love the way that old novels were written, like the early novels. I just appreciate them so much. So I'm hoping that this will be really immersive and fun for me to read as well. Also, it was 50p, so how could I not? From 50p to the very steep £2 from the British Art Foundation, who insist on sticking multiple stickers over the covers of their books. This, I think, is from the 1880s. Published as a serial in Good Words from January to December 1880. So this is going to cover me for like 70s and 80s. And it's Thomas Hardy, the Trumpet Major, and I know that I really passionately love the books that I've read already by Hardy, which is The Return of the Native, Far from the Madding Crowd, and Tess of the D'Urbervilles. So I'm sure that I will enjoy this. It's the kind of book that will really carry me away, and I'm really going to enjoy it. And finally, one that doesn't fit neatly into the chronology, but I'm hoping I will find something in here that comes from the last 10 years of the Victorian era, so that I've done that challenge like properly. I have got another, this is a very Michaela themed video. I might have to tell her just because of all of the mentions she's getting. This was another book that my ex-housemate had for her English literature course and that she didn't want to take back, and it's Victorian Poetry and Annotated Anthology. And it has got a whole range of poets and poetry in it. I've not heard of most of these people, to be honest. Some hymns. That could be enlightening. So I think that's going to be another way of like changing things up a little bit. I did think about reading some non-fiction. I was thinking about reading a short collection called The Galapagos Islands, which is like, I should have picked it out, but it's like an account by Charles Darwin of part of his journey on the Beagle. Is like edited and selected by Penguin. But then I read it already, so I can't count that. But I thought it would be nice to have some non-fiction as well as fiction and poetry, so I'd covered more of the like Victorian bases. But then I didn't do it, so I can't really talk about how good that would be. So yeah, those are all of the books that I'm planning to read. I know that I've seen somebody else who's planning to read Silas Marner. I know that I've seen somebody else who's planning to read Oliver Twist, and I know that I have seen somebody else mentioning the Tales of Angria. So I'm very excited to see the same books cropping up again and again. I know that the group read is Wives and Daughters? Wives and Daughters by Gaskell. I really like North and South by Gaskell, so I would be interested to read Wives and Daughters, but I simply just don't own it. And as I mentioned in a video a couple of weeks ago about To Kill a Mockingbird, essentially I don't have a library, I don't have access to a library at the moment. I need to go during their like core hours to reactivate my account because they close them every year in July because it's an academic library. Just why? I haven't been able to just physically get to the library at the right time yet. But who knows, maybe if later on in the month I manage to get to the library, if I'm doing really well with these, I might take out Wives and Daughters. The other book that I'm reading, that I'm planning to read on my phone through an app called Serial Reader, I was going to show you on my phone, but I'm filming with my phone, so I can't do that, is A Crystal Age by W.H. Hudson, and that is an early sci-fi story, I think, like a dystopia, utopia kind of story, written in, I think, the late 1880s. So it doesn't quite take me into that final decade, but it does sort of show me some of the later Victorian storytelling, and also the kind of development of new genres, in that obviously kind of sci-fi books did already exist, but the kind of dystopia world is relatively new. That said, I have read, is it Utopia by, was it Henry Moore? Which was like a utopia story written like before Shakespeare was writing, so it's not exactly new, but so many rambles. Anyway, so I'm looking forward to this month. This has been a very long video. I will hopefully be able to edit it so it's a lot shorter. I'm looking forward to seeing loads and loads of nice videos about the Victorians, and hopefully when I finish reading all of these, if I ever do, I'll be able to do some kind of like chronological story of how writing in the Victorian times changed according to the books that I've read. If you're reading any of these books for Victober, let me know down below. Generally, it would be really nice to talk to you guys. So, thank you for watching, and I will speak to you soon. Bye!